Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. All right, here we go. Behold, the 15 candidates, serious candidates, have been discussed for Big Ten realignment expansion over the last 3 years plus. Also, these candidates are supported by data saying that they would be at least a decent add to the Big Ten conference. Well, all of these are not accretive, meaning most of them aren't going to add value to the Big Ten BA contract. Only few are. That's not just the idea here. We're looking at it holistically, looking at new regions, academics, football. There's a lot of things that go into it. We're going to break it all down here, but check it out. 15 schools. We're going to tackle it one by one. We're going to place them into one of 5 different tiers. The elite tier, the top tier, must have. The Big Ten must have the school. Priority, priority, priority. You get it. Next down, their primary targets. They don't quite clip the must have, but you got to get them anyway and stuff if they're available. You might be fighting with the SEC for some of these primary targets, but they are high value, okay? Then we're going to the next tier down, high value fallbacks. So guess what? If my must-haves are gone or I've already taken them and I want to keep realigning here, primary targets are next. If they're off the table, then who's next on that list that I can look down and add as a high value fallback? Then we're getting to the lower tier expansion candidates out of these 15, which are all excellent schools. Those are the strategic ads. And then lastly, the last resort. Say everything else is off the table. We got to take these schools if we're going to expand. They're the last resorts. So we've got 5 tiers. We've got 15 schools. Let's freaking go. We're starting hot with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So, Moen, give your breakdown on Notre Dame to the Big Ten.
And Notre Dame to the Big Ten is, I think, the only must-have on this list. It's a must-have. It's the white whale of the Big Ten. They have offered Notre Dame numerous times. Yes, Michigan and Fielding Yost's racism and anti-Catholic sentiment kept them out of the Big Ten previously, but that was close to 100 years ago. They've been offered several times since then. The Big Ten and Notre Dame talk to each other. Notre Dame is a proud member of the Big Ten Conference in hockey. Notre Dame, in my opinion, is the must-have. If this is, I think we're getting to the end of realignment, whether you want to call it consolidation, what have you. I think Notre Dame in the next, they need to get Notre Dame in-house within the next 5 years.
Nate.
I think Notre Dame is the easiest slam dunk of all of them, but I, at the same time, don't think that Notre Dame's joining the Big Ten. So I don't think they need to until their access for the CFP is taken away and they no longer have an automatic in every year. They have no reason to join the Big Ten. So while I know the Big Ten really, really wants them, I don't necessarily see Notre Dame having the same attitude back to the Big Ten. So
let's frame this from the perspective of we're all sitting in the Big Ten boardroom.
Yeah,
we're trying to determine on our big board here on however you want to see it. It could be a big board. It could be like a game out strategy, however you want to look at it. But from the Big Ten perspective, we're all in this Big Ten boardroom. All the community is too. Notre Dame, like you guys have already said, is a must-have target. That's why they're first on the list, because this one obviously is the most no-brainer of all of them. Well, Notre Dame is a must-have.
Can I just bring up one point?
Absolutely.
Notre Dame is in the contract. They cover themselves +3. That alone is why they're number one. That is why they're a must-have. Fox Sports, NBC, and CBS have already agreed to what they're going to pay the Big Ten if Notre Dame joins and becomes a member. That is why they are a must-have.
3 times, Moen.
Themselves +3. Because Notre Dame is worth $400 million. Notre Dame's worth $400 million to the Big Ten. Yeah.
Per year?
I'm not saying they're going to get paid $400 million. I'm just saying that from what we've been told, the Fox contract, the NBC contract, the CBS contract, all mention a figure with Notre Dame. And that figure, we've been told, covers Notre Dame +3 full other shares. So that's $400 million it covers.
Around $400 million.
Right. So you're basically, if you're bringing 3 people with them, now obviously Washington and Oregon have to be made whole before anybody else gets made whole, but that at least makes it possible to at least cover expansion. It's guaranteed money. It's not money they have to figure out.
That is unbelievable that they would be worth four times multiple for like a school, right? Because most of the schools that we'll talk about, you're not going to reach that $100 million per year accretive benchmark. Notre Dame kills that by 4 times, 3 times, 4 times. So that is unreal. Notre Dame tradition on media, deal with NBC. We all know about the Golden Domers. It's a no-brainer ad. Big Ten less for Notre Dame. They've wanted them for a long time. They're the must-have guys. I don't think there's going to be a lot of debate about that. That's how it is. Notre Dame's going to end up number 1, but this is where it gets interesting. Okay, Notre Dame's now on our board. They're put right there, square one, number 1. Now we're going to get to a very questionable realignment candidate for the Big Ten Conference. Extremely questionable in my point of view. So I'm going to ask you guys about this too. Nate, let's start with you. Cal Berkeley, the Cal Bears, where do they fall in the tier list pecking order in Big Ten realignment?
Near the very bottom. I don't see that they bring anything from a competitive standpoint that the Big Ten needs. If we're talking about need here, at the end of the day, I think the only way that Cal gets into the Big Ten is if they get a ride along. They hitch a ride with Stanford, for instance, or a Notre Dame. I don't think Cal in any way, shape, or form gets that addition to the Big Ten unless somebody's helping a brother out.
Yeah. Moen, what are your thoughts on Cal?
Cal needs somebody to they're going to need Stanford, I think. I need Notre Dame and Stanford. That's how poor I think Cal is.
Probably closer to not.
And here's the thing for Cal, I don't think Cal can get out of the ACC. The price for exit for ACC teams, we already know Cal is desperately trying to get money for their athletic department. They're basically putting a calimony on UCLA. They're doing everything they can to fund that athletic department. I don't know that Cal can afford to leave the ACC. I know Stanford can.
Not without a subsidized tariff, no.
They could pay, but Stanford has the money to pay. I mean, like, it's not like Stanford is broke like Cal's broke.
They could if they wanted to. They'd have to prioritize it, though.
Every year that goes by, Cal falls further and further behind.
Yeah.
When realignment happened a year and a half to 2 years ago, Cal was named as a strong contender for Big Ten entry with Stanford, but it feels like every month that goes by, those two programs are just falling. Cal specifically, financial issues, as you mentioned. So if we're in the Big Ten boardroom right here, we got to put Cal as a last resort, guys? Last resort?
Yeah, desperate resort. Yeah.
Last resort for Cal Berkeley. It's a fall maybe from even like the point of a high-value fallback or a strategic ad from 2 years ago, now into a last resort position. It's not trending good for Cal. All right, so I think this next candidate, Moen, why don't you just give the brief again on what's happened with Miami, what information that we know about Miami that you've heard recently?
So there's a document that has been out there, Greg's talked about it, is a short list with 4 teams. We've got a pretty good idea who one of the teams is, because, but we know Miami is not one of the 4 teams. So
4 teams, what do you mean?
I don't
what
think
do you
that
mean, Moen? What do you mean by 4 teams?
List. There's a list of 4 teams that the Big Ten has been talking to. Miami is not on that list right now.
Okay. And Notre Dame would be one of the teams.
We would assume, it's Notre Dame. So here's the thing. I don't think that means that Miami is out. I still think they could be a high target, primary target even. We don't know who the other 3 schools are on that list. Hey, listen, those schools, again, I said it could be Clemson, North Carolina, and Virginia. Those schools could go to the SEC, and the Big Ten's left with Notre Dame and telling Notre Dame, hey, we need 3 more.
Yeah.
Miami would then be a primary target. I think the Big Ten has to get into Florida. But, if Notre Dame is on that list and is on the top of that list, I got to tell you, a lot of it's going to be who Notre Dame wants to come with them.
I'd
put you at a primary target.
I would love to have Miami in the Big Ten. I would prefer they're in the Big 12 from a selfish standpoint. But I think if anybody deserves to be in the Big 10, it would be, I think Miami is the brand and everything else that comes with it. That's my opinion.
like we've been talking for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months about how Miami checks all these boxes. And then all of a sudden there's a little bit more intel that they're not on the short list. That doesn't change the boxes they've checked, guys.
Right.
Like information comes and goes, it flows, it comes back. Like you got to look on paper and stuff. If we're like the boardroom for the Big Ten, Miami has to be a primary target.
And here's the thing. Maybe the list is just who they're talking to. Maybe they don't want to talk to Miami while they've got this lawsuit going on with Wisconsin. That, you know,
it's so stupid.
I know it's a dumb hill to die on, but for some legal reason, maybe that's why they're not having conversations with Miami.
That certainly could be. And like, what is Miami doing now in this lawsuit with Wisconsin? Wisconsin's one of the big influencers in the Big Ten Conference. As you've mentioned, Moen, Greg mentioned that like they have that block with Michigan, Wisconsin-Michigan block. So you're talking about powerful allies that you're really pushing against, right? That might have been allies. Now they're going to be enemies in the Big Ten. I can't believe what they're doing right now. It seems so foolish. At the end of the day, though, this is a 100-year decision. It's not a 6-month to 2-year decision. I think that the Big Ten leadership could overlook that for the long-term benefits of getting into the city of Miami, getting into Florida, everything that we talked about with the research, the alignment with research too, that still exists. It's still a massive brand. Miami's got to be a primary target. Might not be the first, though, in position. So how these work is if you're in that left-hand side right next to the must-have or primary target, you're number one in that category. So Miami's sitting right now as the only primary target. They might not last there. They might be behind some other schools. Okay, so I'm going to try to take my bias out of this. And Nate, maybe we should let Moen opine on the Utah Utes first.
Sure, go ahead.
Moen, give a breakdown.
It's Utah is a last resort. I'm sorry, Salt Lake City isn't a big enough media market for them. And to be honest, BYU does a pretty damn good job dominating that market. So I think Utah is a last resort. Good. Their academics have started to slip, though. They really have. Their academic rankings have started to go down, which is not a good thing for the Utah Utes. But as far as adding more teams on the West Coast, I think there's better West Coast teams out. I think there's more attractive. Let me put it that way. I think there's more attractive West Coast teams out there for the Big Ten.
Yeah, like obviously have bias on this side and everything. I do think there's a lot more to offer there. I think that's just kind of looking at the half empty right there. I think if you look at the state of Utah, I mean, BYU, like it or not, they're never going to be a Big Ten candidate based on its church affiliation. Let's just be straight up about that, okay? So if you're going to add the state of Utah, it's going to be the Utes. Yep. And the state, so here, check it out. So Utah is actually the number one growth state in the nation. Has a ton of kids going into school and stuff. Those are important priorities. It's a bridge, too, to the West Coast schools, especially to LA. And you've got the football brand there, too. Moen, I think you're disrespecting the Utes a little bit. If you look at the ratings over the last 10 years, Utah's actually performed pretty well. So totally get it and stuff. They're not Florida State. They're not Notre Dame. But I definitely don't see them as a last resort candidate. Worst case scenario, strategic ad for me. So we might need to go to the community poll for this one to see where they fall.
Man, I don't think you want the community poll, but I'll put it out there.
Ask the community poll if they're a strategic ad or last resort.
My opinion is that I think they maybe had a shot at getting in at 24.
Sure.
I think that has slipped since. I think they're closer to 25, 26. But I admit I'm fully biased.
Sure.
I don't feel the need to hide my bias in that regard. But from a growth perspective for where we're going to be for realignment and now consolidation moving forward, if we have realignment moving forward, if we have that, we tip the curve when it comes to consolidation. I just don't see a need to have school in the state of Utah, frankly. It is fast growing, and it is the demographics in Utah have increased, but I think Arizona is higher. I think Colorado's higher. But I don't think any of those schools get into the Big Ten.
I do agree that in a 24-team scenario, that is Utah's only shot at getting in the Big Ten Conference. And it's not a shoe-in even in a 24-team scenario. Right. So we are aligned right there. As far as Utah's brand, is it declining now that they're not in the Pac-12? I sure hope not. Maybe. And that's not a good testament right there.
Yeah.
Last season didn't help you.
No, last season didn't help. We'll see what this season brings and everything. But this is a 100-year decision, guys. This isn't a 1 year, 2 years decision. So anyway, I've got bias too. I will admit that. Nate's got bias. So what does the community poll say? Where are we putting the Utes?
Last resort.
Last resort. Okay. So Utah is going into last resort column. Head of Cal, because Cal's a cluster right here. So, okay, let's move on here. So we're moving on to the Kansas Jayhawks, and then let's get to some comments too from the community. So what do you think about the Kansas Jayhawks, Nate, in their addition?
I think Kansas is a brand. I think a brand, as we all three of us know, brands have intrinsic value. Don't necessarily have to be one-to-one a football for football. You could just have a brand for brand's sake. But again, I think it's a last ditch. I don't think there's anybody pretty much on this list out in my mind outside of Notre Dame and Miami that is a must-have. That's my opinion.
I've got Kansas as a high-value fallback. The basketball program is valuable. I'd put it above strategic ad. Again, depending on what candidates left out there after the SEC eats, if the Big Ten doesn't move first. So for me, I got Kansas as a high-value fallback.
Yeah, I've got Kansas as a last resort for sure. Like Kansas, as far as ratings for football, they've been really bad for a long time. Small stadium. If you look at the growth rates in Kansas City, next market next to Lawrence here, they're not really growing at a fast rate. Salt Lake City is a bigger market than Kansas City, guys. And so if you look at like the deep details of KU's candidacy into the Big Ten Conference, I just don't see the value add there. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think KU is a strong candidate for SEC, as we mentioned last week. Go check out that video if you didn't hear that analysis and breakdown for the SEC realignment expansion. But to me, KU is pretty low in that last resort tier.
Yeah,
I don't think. Yeah, go ahead.
I let me put it to, since we've all got three different views here, we've got high value, strategic, and last resort. We're going to let the community decide on it. So I would just go this way, and the NCAA is paying a lot of money for these tournament teams. Kansas is consistently in the tournament. The Big Ten has not won a national championship in basketball since 2002. It's a lot of money.
Who was that? Was that Michigan?
Michigan State, I believe.
Michigan State, okay.
Yeah, Tom Izzo with Michigan State. So, I mean, the Big Ten, we've got a lot. Purdue will get you to the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight every year, but, I mean, Big Ten basketball has to come up. So I think the Kansas.
How much is basketball worth? Yeah,
well, that's what I'm saying.
Talking about $100 million. They can't even get close to clearing that with football and basketball mode.
Yeah.
There's teams on this list that don't have football or basketball.
Right.
So, I mean,
right.
There's a team on here who has probably one of the top 3-4 brands in basketball. To me, that's a high value fallback.
That's so just we're making the big board here and stuff. So KU is going to be one. We'll see. Let's see. What does the community say?
Yeah, what the community say?
Yeah, we'll let the community decide.
Okay.
Community says, well, this is close. Strategic 39, high value 33, last resort 27. The community is just as split as we are. So
define what would be a strategic. What would be define how Kansas is a strategic ad for the Big Ten?
It's a contiguous state. You get into the Kansas City market, maybe. With having a Kansas team there, strategically, you need basketball revenue to go up. Kansas definitely does that.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess like beauty is in the eye of the beholder for the Big Ten. KU to me makes no sense. For the SEC, a ton of sense.
Absolutely. But the most important thing, guys, is remember that Moen, all Kansas Jayhawk fans, Moen said high value feedback, fallback.
Give that Jayhawk squawk one more time. Come on. I'll give you the wings.
I should have worn the Kansas hat.
Here's a fascinating candidate right here, the Clemson Tigers. So Clemson, football brand is there. Will they add value? You're adding South Carolina.
Who wants to
You're
start?
adding a new.
Who wants to start?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You, Moen. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Clemson, primary target number one right now. High academics. They don't have the research where they need to be. Obviously, they don't have a hospital system. Not AAU, but high academics. Close to AAU. They could get to AAU. Clemson, huge football brand. New market, South Carolina. Very close to Atlanta, Georgia. Could get you into the Atlanta market potentially. Could also get you into portions of southern North Carolina. get you into North Carolina markets potentially. I've got to think primary target, Clemson. And Graham Neff, he mentioned this week in an article that they're talking to people. And I have to believe that the Big Ten is one of those people they're talking to. So I've got Clemson as a high primary target.
Go ahead, Nate.
For the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, for the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think Clemson's a very high value target. I think as much as anybody is on the table, Clemson would be one of them. But is it enough to drive a realignment pickup? I don't know. I less and less every day do I believe that consolidation needs to revolve around further realignment. I just don't think that's. I think we get to where we all want to be, which is the most high quality sports, football and basketball being primarily 1 and 2, and that being the case, I don't think the rest of it is necessary. So I would prefer we go out and just have teams and leagues and not worry about realignment.
Yeah, well, that'd be nice, but we have to because it's reality. So where are they, Nate? Are they in the primary targets or high value fallback in your?
I think if you're putting a gun to my head, I say they're a primary target, but I don't think they're a primary target.
I agree with you guys, and especially with Nate. I'm leaning towards a high value fallback for Clemson. Look, you do get into South Carolina. You are close to Atlanta, only an hour away. You've got good academics, but it's not a research-focused institution. Culturally, It's not really a Big Ten school. It's an SEC school, guys. Culturally, the fit for Clemson isn't necessarily like a glove, like for some other schools, but its value is enough that you might just do it anyway because of its brand. And again, you're going to the South.
I'm going to have to disagree with you here. Who on this list is a cultural Big Ten school?
Notre Dame,
Georgia
Tech, Duke, UNC, Florida State over Clemson, Stanford, Cal, Utah, Arizona State. There's a lot. Most of them are. Clemson's not, though.
Yeah,
there's only a few that aren't
high on that.
Virginia,
from that measurement, I don't think.
I disagree. I disagree. Outside of Notre Dame, I don't see a Big Ten cultural team here. It's about adopting a new culture in the Big Ten to get into the Southeast.
You don't think Miami is? I think
Just
Miami is. Okay.
I don't think they're cultural. No, I think Miami's very culturally. I think Miami and Stanford and Cal, I don't think are Big Ten. Listen, I don't think USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon are Big Ten culturally. But we went out on the West Coast and we added 4 West Coast teams. But I mean, look, they're still very culturally different from the teams that Big Ten has added previously. They added Nebraska. Nebraska was always a power run school.
Right.
That fits into the Big Ten mode. They were a contiguous state. Rutgers, again, not a great school, but great market, great academics. Maryland is, I think, one of the outliers. I still think Maryland as an ACC cultural school, but outside of Notre Dame, I don't see any Big Ten cultural schools on this list. The closest I think we would come to a Big Ten cultural school is Kansas.
Well, the only thing that Notre Dame has is right square in the Big Ten, guys.
I think Miami
Indiana.
is. I think
you guys
Miami
own the
is.
state.
Well,
I mean, it's a Big Ten fit because it's in the state.
Lots of rivalries. Right, but they have rivalries with Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan. They even have a rivalry with Northwestern. They've got 4 different rivalries in the Big Ten.
Are we talking about Clemson or are we talking about Miami?
I'm talking about Notre Dame.
Yeah, if we just take Notre Dame as rote, the next school you have is who?
The next closest to a Big Ten culture school would be Kansas.
Oh, yeah, we can.
Man,
I just don't see that.
I
don't see that.
So Clemson guys, I'm leaning towards high value fallbacks. Do they make it behind Miami in the primary targets? Where are we going?
They should be in front of Miami, but okay.
There's no way they're in front of Miami. So we talk about for a full year about how Miami's such a great candidate. Now Clemson, the one that doesn't fit at all of a sudden scoots ahead of Miami. That doesn't make any sense. Like, I just can't do it. Sorry. I can't do it, Moen.
Okay. But
what's that based on? Yeah, go ahead.
Out. If we just assume Notre Dame is number 1 on that list, who did Notre Dame just schedule a 12-year contract with?
So they're backpacking with Notre Dame. That's the logic then.
Clemson did.
Right.
It's got to stop,
But that one doesn't necessarily that doesn't complete the circle necessarily, though, Moen. Just because the result ends up, that doesn't mean
true.
that
But
was
if
the
Notre Dame is the
intent,
top,
though.
I think Notre Dame is going to have a say. I think Notre Dame will have a say. I think they would want Clemson in conference as a conference game as opposed to an out of conference game, then followed by playing a full Big Ten schedule.
So Moen thinks about this like a game theory. I totally understand like where you're coming from with that. It was from a big board like just standpoint. Okay, forget Notre Dame. Let's just forget it for a second. Where does Clemson fall? And must have priority 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. I think it'd be 3. And then you game it out. Maybe they move up to the 2, like we're talking about as a primary target. Man, Miami just checks so many more boxes. You get into the big city. That's Big Ten. All like the research, the brand, and everything else. It just makes so much more sense than Clemson.
I understand you, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but they're not on the short list right now, and there has to be a reason they're not on the short list.
Well, but Clemson's not necessarily on the short list either, though.
No, but I think with Notre Dame, I think it puts it in front of Miami, but it's not a hill I'm going to die on. I don't think Miami should die on the Wisconsin Xavier Lucas hill. I'm not dying on the Clemson in front of Miami hill. I'm fine as long as you've got them as primary target.
Okay, so the primary targets, Nate and I both have them behind Miami. So we'll stick them right here. We're sticking them right here. The primary target, very good Big Ten candidate. We're all admitting to that. Now let's move on to the Stanford Cardinal. Stanford, very fascinating because if you want to talk about a school that Notre Dame would want to add, I think it's still Stanford. There was heat about that a year and a half ago. Stanford circles excited because they thought they were going to piggyback with Notre Dame into the Big Ten eventually. I don't know why that's changed. Stanford is the better of the Cal Stanford 2. You don't get a benefit for going back into California since you own LA, but Stanford brings huge amounts of money, academic prestige, Olympic sports, brand. I think that Stanford's got to be a serious Big Ten candidate still, guys.
I agree. Yeah, I think if they would just drop their academic alliance thing, I think they could have gotten an add to the Big Ten years ago. Are they willing to drop that demand / requirement? I don't know, but they definitely are Big Ten. But they are a true blue Big Ten member if they just would be willing to subvert their own egos a little bit.
Yeah, the question to me is whether the Big Ten wants to go west again. Does the Big Ten want to go west or the next? We know there's 4 schools they're talking to. Are all 4 of them in the Southeast? I mean, does the Big Ten really want to go west again until they go to 20? I mean, maybe they decide they want to go to 24 at some point, but
that's just it. I don't think it comes down to the total number again, and I don't think they go past 20, 21 if you include Notre Dame as one of those schools. I don't think they go to 24.
Where are they on the big board?
I've got them as a high value fallback. I've got them as a high value fallback.
Same.
I think if they were available, I think it'd be them and Notre Dame would be 1-2. I think they do want Stanford. It's just there's a reason why they've chased him for as long as they have. I don't think that's just an accident, and I don't think that's going away anytime soon either.
I think Stanford should be ahead of Clemson.
Oh, definitely. I think. Well, Miami's ahead of Clemson. I think Stanford's ahead of Clemson. I think Clemson's like 4 or 5 on a list.
Okay, so Moen, can you stomach notching Stanford ahead of Clemson? You're the Big Ten guy.
No, I can't.
Okay,
and I'm going to tell you why. Stanford does not want to leave the Ivy Public League library system. They don't want to leave it, and it's going to be a prerequisite to get into the Big Ten. They have to leave that and join the Big Ten Academic Alliance.
Right.
Is Stanford willing to do that? So far, they probably could have been in the Big Ten already. They didn't want to do it. So I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I think Notre Dame is probably going to get that point that, hey, listen, we'd love to bring Stanford. They won't leave and join the Big Ten Academic Alliance. So for me, Stanford's a high value fallback. It's definitely high value. I'm not disputing that. I just don't think they want to leave the Ivy Public League system. I think you would have to get Duke on board to leave the Ivy Public League system in order to get Stanford on board to leave the Ivy Public League system.
Okay. High value fallback.
High value fallback.
Arizona State Sun Devils. What do you think, Nate?
if we're talking about 4, 5, 6 deep, yeah, they're on that list. They're not. Nobody's screaming to get into Phoenix.
I disagree. I've got them as a high value fallback. I think there is value in the market. If you're going west again, the population center in Arizona, I think, is a huge market for them. Arizona State, hey, they've proved themselves. They got Kenny Dillingham. They improved last year. They went to the playoffs last year. If not for a bad call, they should have beat Texas last year and been in the Final Four. I think Arizona State, plus Arizona State has a hockey program. We got a lot of hockey in the Big Ten. I've got Arizona State as a high value fallback. If we're going west, it's right behind Stanford. I'd put Stanford as the number 1 West school. I would put Arizona State as my number 2 West school.
So let's look at Arizona State. So huge enrollment. That's checking the Big Ten box. Research institution checks, AAU checks, big market checks, football's improving checks, decent brand, but not a great brand, and really, really rough TV ratings for a long, long time because of really bad football that's been up and down. The issue with Arizona State is, like, what type of viewership could they command? Are they going to be, if they got added, would they be another Rutgers or Maryland?
Yes.
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 So the academics are fine, but they're not that good. Utah's ranked ahead of them in the academics. It's not like they're elite.
I understand that, but here we go. I just want to put this out here. This came across the board. Per Jamie Bengals girl saying per Greg, the 4 schools the biggest talking to that are on that short list are Virginia, North Carolina, Clemson, and Notre Dame.
Okay.
Those are the 4 schools then.
So can we move Clemson in front of Miami as a primary target?
No. Why? Just because Greg says so?
If they're on that list.
Greg is one. I mean, he's a friend of ours and everything, but that doesn't mean that it trumps.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're not going to squash a year's worth of discussion about Miami just because this came out.
Look, I respect Greg. Oh, that doesn't mean I have to agree with him. No, I don't.
So let's talk about those. Okay, so Moen. Okay, so we'll read off that comment again, and then let's move up. Let's move up some of these schools so we can start talking about them and notching them real quick. So Virginia is in that, right?
Virginia again.
UNC's is in the 4-2.
Way down.
UNC. Hey, I got to move Arizona State. I'm just going to put them out as a strategic ad, guys. We'll meet in the middle, right there, Moen, for strategic ad for ASU.
As opposed to what? Yeah. Strategic ad instead of what?
I would have put them in last resort. Moen's put him in high value fallback. Nate, you kind of seem somewhere in the middle too. So let's throw him in the middle.
Okay.
Okay. So here we go. So read off that again based on the most recent intel. What's going on, Moen?
Jamie Bengals girl was saying that Greg said the 4 on the list are Notre Dame, which was obvious, North Carolina, Virginia, and Clemson.
Okay. So you add the states of Indiana, you add the states of South Carolina, Virginia, and North Carolina. You're checking multiple states off. That makes sense. All of them.
But you're not. What? You're not getting into Florida unless you go to 24.
What that does, though, like, it actually alleviates travel issues with Miami. It's so far down there, guys. Like, Miami really is, you've got to add 1 or 2 travel partners if you're at Miami. Clemson would be one of those, obviously. So that's.
Can you explain? This came out of left field for me. Just what does this have to do with Greg? I don't understand. What is the premise? Jamie Bengals girl says Greg says. What is the context? Because I don't understand just by saying that. What does that mean?
That is, I believe, the new chatter.
From who?
Those 4 series targets. Based on sources.
I know. Greg's come up with that off the top of his head? Or?
There is a document. It is a Big Ten document.
Okay.
That lists 4 teams they are talking to. Apparently, those 4 teams are Notre Dame, Clemson, North Carolina, and Virginia. Those are the 4 teams they're talking to at this point. 4 schools. This is a Notre Dame wish list of schools per Greg. They are your 4 Notre Dame wants: Virginia, North Carolina, Clemson, and Notre Dame. But I put this up here. Greg just said, the big nose UNC is most likely going to the SEC. I think wherever UNC goes, UVA goes. But until they go to the SEC, the Big Ten isn't giving up. This is a Notre Dame-driven expansion for the Big, per Greg just now, which goes back to what I said earlier. If the SEC scoops up North Carolina and Virginia, who are the next two on the Big Ten's list?
Yeah.
That's why I'm not going to exclude Miami.
Definitely don't exclude Miami. Definitely don't, nor Stanford. Look, based on that information, guys, is there any doubt that North Carolina needs to be number one in the primary targets area?
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't. Based on what, though?
Based on the national reports that both conferences want them, based on the evidence of the Big Ten offering North Carolina 12, 15 years ago, and North Carolina staying in the ACC, based on the brand, based on the growth in the population. I think there's enough evidence there to suggest that they are a hot commodity for both the Big Ten and the SEC. And Virginia was offered to by Big Ten 10, 15 years ago. So
yeah,
feelings. You still have feelings for them.
Okay. All right. I don't feel strongly about either Virginia or North Carolina.
You bring up a great point. And right now, Duke is ahead of UVA. Some people don't want to believe that, and I get it, as Greg says. I can actually speak on this. Duke, and I told everybody in the Mafia chat this week, Duke has been cozying up to Michigan to the point that people believe that Duke may have sweetened the pot. I don't know what they mean by sweeten the pot, but they said sweeten the pot. That was the exact term that was used regarding Duke. So I'm putting that out there. That's an exclusive. You can take that one to the bank. Cozying up to Michigan. Michigan is obviously a big deal in the Big Ten. One of the top two brands. So we can put that out there as well.
Repeat that, Moen, if you would.
Duke is cozying up to Michigan to the point that other people in the Big Ten believe that Duke has, quote unquote, sweetened the pot.
Gee. So Duke's hoping that UNC goes to the SEC to jump in and be that North Carolina school for the Big Ten.
Or they're hoping that the Big Ten takes Duke over Virginia, and you get UNC, Duke, Clemson, Notre Dame in the Big Ten.
Holy freaking cow! Okay, so Duke. Let's move Duke up the pecking order here. So now Duke's at the front. So Duke, given that information, where does Duke fall on the pecking order here in the tiers? Are they a must-have? No. Are they a primary target or high-value fallback or a strategic ad?
They are a high-value fallback, in my opinion. I'm putting them on the same level as Stanford.
Okay. I don't understand.
So Duke.
I'll defer to you guys. I don't.
Just
to say,
Duke?
because it's on a whiteboard somewhere that somebody says they're a high value target.
I don't think anybody's saying
what?
I don't think anybody's saying they're a high value target. I'm just telling you from the intel I received, Duke is cozying up to Michigan to the point that people in the Big Ten believe they have sweetened the pot. We've heard it also before that Duke is apparently willing to forego any media money for the term of the media contract in order to get into the Big Ten.
I doubt
I don't know if that's true or not. Yeah, I don't know if it's true or not, but
there's probably
it's
20
been put
schools
out there.
that have. I guarantee you, Utah would be in the same row to hoe when it comes to something like that. Look, at the end of the day, it's going to be do anything you can just to get into the club. It's not going to be whether they bring value themselves. It's they just want to be included into the
Conversation.
That's it. That's all that's about.
I don't disagree with you. I think there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah,
I 100% agree with you on that, Nate.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, this is kind of mind blowing.
You guys are putting a lot more value in just people talk than I am.
Yeah, you've got to feel out the room what the chatter is and everything. You got to do some analysis. Look, Duke, like elite academics, they're AAU, they fit that. They bring market. If UNC doesn't come along, bring the state of North Carolina. Elite basketball, strong brand. You can see why it checks the boxes. The football's horrid, though, guys. Like, and the stadium's small. It just doesn't seem Big Ten at all.
Let's cut him a break. Manny Diaz took over last year and had a pretty damn good season for a first-year head coach. Now, Mike Elko did leave him a good team. I wouldn't say their football is horrid. They've had some good football programs in the past 10 years. Are they the same level as a Miami, Clemson, or North? Well, they're the same level as North Carolina. But I mean, are they the same level as a Miami or a Clemson? No, they're not. But you have to look at it this way. Again, they're another one of those schools that are in the Ivy Public League library system. Notre Dame likes academics. It's pretty clear from the fact they want UVA and UNC that they are keen to academics. Notre Dame might favor a Duke, especially if UNC isn't available.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get to some community comments, and then we'll break out the last 5 here. This list is coming together, though, guys. It is.
We're getting there. Timothy Green, please, everyone, hit that like button, share, subscribe, and comment.
Please.
Thank you all so very much. Please, guys, absolutely. Give us a like, give us a comment, give us a share, give us a subscribe. If you're watching us over on Twitter /X/ whatever Elon calls it this week, head on over here to YouTube. Give us a subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. We're on our march to 5,000 subscribers. Let's try and get there by the end of September. I think that's our goal. We're trying to hit 5,000 by the end of September. So by all means, if you have not subscribed yet, please hit subscribe. Please share. Please tell your people out there to join in to the College Football Mafia. We got a great chat room. Lots of debate goes on in the chat room. Don't forget that. And if you want to help support us financially, keep the lights on around here, clicking the little cash icon will allow you to gift a membership. Become a member. We're releasing all kinds of new member content all the time. Data-driven member content. You definitely want to check it out. Or leave a super chat or a super sticker. You can do all those. All super chats get read. Thanks for everybody who has supported us thus far and anybody who wants to support us going forward. Thanks. Let's go on to our next comment. Chris G. Chris G is a Virginia Tech fan. UVA will not give you Virginia in football. Chris G, that's a hill Chris G is willing to die on.
This is getting into the realm outside of football when we're talking about what UVA brings to the table. They bring prestige, they bring research, they bring elite academics, they bring DC. There's a lot of other factors there. They're close to the Big Ten. It's a pretty good fit culturally. And so, so they'd just be pounded on in the Big Ten Conference as far as football. They wouldn't be a full share member, in my view. They'd be a half share member, maybe a quarter share member. But I still think that the Big Ten would want to pursue them for the market, for the growth market, and a large market in the state of Virginia.
I disagree with you. And the reason being, you've already got Maryland, you've already got a DC. You got a foothold in the DC market. You've got Maryland. You are doubling up markets taking Virginia, in my opinion.
Was Maryland in conference last time Virginia was offered?
They were offered, Virginia and North Carolina were offered before Maryland and Rutgers.
Okay.
So
that could be the case. So given that, going back to the tier maker here, okay, because we're on Virginia right now. So where does Virginia fall on the big board here?
Go ahead, Nate.
Last resort. I am just Virginia. I don't see why the Big Ten needs to rush out to get them. I understand why they've talked about it with demographics and everything, but I don't see them or North Carolina being must-haves for the Big Ten like some other people do. So
I don't see them as must-haves. I see, but Virginia Tech or Virginia, I would put as a strategic ad.
So
I think strategic. That's fair. Strategic is a fair word. I think
that is going against the current chatter, right? That Virginia's on the top 4 list.
Well, yeah, but it's a strategic ad in the sense that you want Notre Dame to come into the conference. If getting Virginia gets you into the conference, strategic ad.
I'm either at strategic ad or high value fallback. I'll probably notch them ahead of Duke. Given you guys are both at strategic ads, let's throw them in that bucket ahead of ASU and KU. Number 1 over in strategic ads. Okay. And that leads next up to their in-state partner, Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Moen, give the overview.
We got a super chat. We had a super chat here from Charlie Casado. Again, thank you for the super chat, Charlie. It's much appreciated. Boston College would be a better fit than UVA. Disagree.
Yeesh.
Boston is not a college football town. It just it isn't. You've got the New England Patriots. New England Patriots are everything. The Boston Celtics are everything. The hockey squad up there is everything. Boston is a pro sports town. And I'm not saying that Charlottesville is some huge college football mecca. It's not. But yeah, Boston is just, it's pro market. It's never been about the college athletics in that town. Just my opinion. What do you guys think?
I don't
Boston,
think. Yeah, they're not even on the same. I don't even know where that's coming from. There's no way you can compare Boston College and Virginia.
Yeah, Boston College. What do they? I guess like they bring the Boston market.
Yeah, that's about it. That's about all you can
Yeah,
say.
they
I
don't
think.
really bring eyeballs brand. They're a good school, but UVA is better. Boston College wasn't in these top 15.
Let's be very clear. We're not talking that we're not devaluing the universities themselves. We're talking about realignment. We're talking about for athletics.
Right.
And that's all we're talking about. It's not about whether the university is highly valuable or all these universities are highly valuable.
100%. Yeah. Right. It's just like you have to clear a certain value threshold to get in the Big Ten Conference, guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's nuts.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on here. Virginia Tech Hokies. The Virginia Tech Hokies. And Nate, why don't you do a breakdown quickly of Virginia Tech and the Big Ten?
I think if you were looking for the best of the rest when we're talking about football value, I think Virginia Tech has a high limit threshold on football value. It would be higher than where Maryland came in at, where Rutgers came in at. Is that enough to drive a realignment decision? I don't know. Each school or each conference has to make their decisions based on their own needs. But if I was just picking from an athletic standpoint, Virginia Tech could be I think they would be a strategic ad.
Moen?
Boy, I've already got Virginia Tech fans pissed at me. So do you.
Yeah.
I'm going to add them as a last resort. Listen, again, Maryland gets you the DC market. I don't know why you need a team in Virginia. The only reason you take Virginia, again, Notre Dame says we'll agree to join if Virginia joins. Then you take Virginia.
There you go.
Virginia Tech just seems like a Big 12 school to me.
Virginia Tech is a Big 12 school. Virginia Tech's only really in this tier maker because of the chatter that they would backpack off Virginia. Possibly, they're hoping at least to backpack off Virginia into the Big Ten Conference. If you look at all the metrics that the Big Ten wants, Virginia Tech falls short almost on every single one of them. I think we found our last spot with Virginia Tech so far. So really very, very unlikely that they get in the Big Ten Conference, but they are on this tier maker list because of the outside shot that they could try to backpack with Virginia into the Big Ten.
Absolutely. And before we get to Colorado, Fergie, our friend Fergie,
hey.
18 buffs,
with
a 20-piece chicken McNugget.
Love
in
it.
Chat, Colorado lobby, longtime AAU, medical center system, historic brand, 2 Heismans, a national championship, top 20 market, NFL city, congruent state, Nebraska rivalry, space research, and top space plus defense contractors. Huge, great airport. Yeah, Denver has a great airport. I can attest to that flying in there. Thank you for the super chat, Fergie. We're going to go ahead and, yes, I added it today, a little bit of the Colorado fight song. So here you go, Fergie. Thank you for the super chat. We will now begin the debate on Colorado. Again, if anybody else wants to leave a super chat, by all means, just click the little cash icon in the chat window, and you can leave a super chat from there. Thanks.
I'm going to drop a super chat so we can re-talk about the Utes here. That's a genius move, Fergie, right there. To get this
there you go.
And I think that I need to drop a super chat. Just kidding, guys. Like, seriously, that's genius, though. I love it, though. Your nails. Like, I got to give Colorado its kudos here because I was really low on Colorado coming into this year as a realignment candidate. And that was based on my experience with the Buffs and the Buff fan base in the Pac-12. It was rough times in the Pac-12 for the Buffs. The fan base seemingly shrunk. Viewership was horrid. But things have changed a lot since Coach Brian was added. Like Fergie says, it's a good market, a growing market. It checks a lot of boxes. You've got some historical rivalries with Nebraska. It's another bridge to the LA schools, kind of like Utah is. I mean, just right there. Who are you going to choose, Colorado or Utah, if you go into the mountain region? That's what you'd have to make the decision on. Where they fall on this big board will be interesting. Nate, where do you see Colorado falling?
I think they have value. I think the Big Ten would take them ahead of Arizona or ahead of a Utah, ahead of a TCU. The question is, at the end of the day, is the program worth more than just one head coach?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
And that's going to be the question. And each school and each conference is going to have to make up their own mind. I don't know. Deion's got health challenges, but it definitely has value. Just where do you put your value at? If I was to pick one over the other, I'd take Colorado over Arizona and Utah, though.
Okay. Moen?
Yeah, I think I would put Colorado between Virginia and Arizona State. No, I take it back. I put them between Arizona State and Kansas, is what I meant to say. I think Arizona State has a little more just because of the Arizona market, the growth in Arizona. Colorado, and Nate put this perfectly. It's the coach. Do I have a guarantee that Prime's going to be there for the next 5, 10, 15 years? Do I have a guarantee that the university is going to be able to replace Prime? I mean, it was just, a week ago we were talking about Prime potentially stepping down. Somebody started that rumor he was stepping down. How does that affect Colorado? Are they prepared for when Prime steps down? So a lot of it does tie to Deion. So that's why I put Arizona State a little bit in front of Colorado on the strategic ads.
Yeah, I think that some of these strategic ads are very questionable. I still think the KU is an incredibly questionable strategic ad. I would definitely notch them behind Utah in last resort, KU, and then Colorado is going to be right next to Utah. Who do you want? And if you guys are saying Utah's a last resort, then Colorado's a last resort too. There's no way. Like Colorado outside of Prime and stuff doesn't really have that many amplifiers. Look, guys, when they were in the Pac-12 era, it was rough. No one was watching Colorado. No one cared about Colorado. No one would show up to their games. Like, we got to be honest about that. When Prime leaves, which will be in the next couple of years, don't get too short-sighted about a 100-year decision.
Oh, okay.
So,
but in their defense, Fergie did give us a $20 super chat. But
Moen, that's not supposed to influence you.
I know it's not. You're right. I would probably put Colorado behind Kansas. At least Kansas basketball program goes back many years. I think any coach that comes into Kansas is going to be a good coach. They're going to care about that basketball program. So you've convinced me to move Colorado behind Kansas.
But Kansas, they've got no business being a strategic ad, guys. Kansas. That's the biggest airball on this list, in my view.
Speaking of which,
Kansas wasn't high on my list. Kansas is, I think, their brand, but I don't think there's few of these schools that honestly we're stretching to even cover.
Stretching.
So, speaking of which, Charlie Cazado with the $5 super chat. Thank you, Carl. Says, are we all forgetting that Kansas beat Colorado and BYU and has a brand new football stadium? They do have a brand new football stadium.
Yeah.
Very cool. Have you guys seen the new turf that they put down in there?
No,
with the wheat. Oh, you got to check it out. The wheat in the end zone. Vox Quindaro sent it to me. It looks fantastic. But I'll give you another Jayhawk squawk just because I like that sound effect, Charlie.
We like the super chat.
Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I'm advocating for Kansas here, but these two Big 12 guys are advocating against you. So, FF18 Buff says, guys, if top 7 teams are all ACC, why is it dying?
Media contract.
Because the bottom 10 teams in the ACC are really bad. And they signed a terrible media deal, Fergie. They really did. It just stability at a price. But thank you for the super chat, Fergie. Rockin' Rant says, breaking, we closed the U, respect our decision. I think he's already convinced that, we'll do this.
Stand back. There's a hurricane coming through.
There you go. Rock and Rant, I expect you on Sunday to, and who knows, that list could be public tomorrow. We could see that actual image of the document. I expect you to be fired up and impassioned for Sunday's show, Rock. Tempest, 37-6-1 versus big conference schools and 3-0 versus Ohio State. Go Noles. That's true. You are 3-0 against Ohio State. I'm not going to deny
smokes,
that.
Really?
Ohio State still has 9 national championships. And thank you for the super chat. And we'll give you a little war chant.
All right. So it's time to get.
We got one more. Just Just a late one here, you. I got to get a late super chat. Charlie Casado says nobody in Denver watched Colorado.
Moen, like,
there you
Moen,
go.
that's the case. I mean, like Colorado, it was really rough times in the Pac-12.
I don't disagree with you. Yeah.
Nobody,
Colorado
they were the
before
worst
Prime was
view
very
team
rough.
before Prime. The worst view team in the Pac-12, Moen. Like, you can't just ignore that. Like, you're risking bringing on Colorado and having them as the worst viewership rated school in the Big Ten.
Let's put them on the board first. Before we get too over our heads into Colorado, let's get them on the board first. Where do you want them, you?
Last resort.
I got them as a strategic ad.
We got to ask the community, Moen. Where do they fall?
Let's start a poll.
Strategic ad.
We're gonna do Colorado. We'll let people decide. I've got a strategic ad. The Denver market, I think it's a strategic ad. You get the guys from South Park. Maybe the guys from South Park will do some stuff for the Big Ten.
That was nowhere in the Pac-12. Like nowhere. Like why is it all going to change in the Big Ten?
That was before Colorado was good.
Well, I mean, Colorado's going to struggle this year, Moen. They're going to be lucky to have a winning record.
Are they?
Yeah.
Are they? I think the Big 12 is the most wide open conference in college football. I think Colorado could surprise some people. That rookie quarterback could surprise some people. It's his first year. He's a frosh, but I mean, who knows? Maybe, Deion Sanders, dude, beat cancer. I'm not going to count him out. I'm not counting him out. But it seems like Chad is. So, Fergie, you've got to do something to rally Chad if you want Colorado to be in here. That's a strategic ad because it's almost 2-1 against Colorado. I'm going to give it 15 more seconds. And then we're going to decide. Whatever the chat decides, that's where we're putting it on the tier maker.
It's going to be last resort.
It's going to be last resort, guys. I'm sorry, Colorado fans. It's last resort. We'll let... Yeah, you put them behind Utah. I don't agree with that. I would put Colorado in front of Utah in last resort.
Okay. You know what? Okay. Can we bring Kansas down yet?
No.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Town Hawk, $2 super chat says KU goes 2-0 over Team WildUte this year. Book it.
What?
I don't understand what 2-0 means.
He means that Utah and KU are going to be in the Big 12 championship.
I guess so. That must be what he's
if Utah lost back-to-back weeks to KU, because Utah plays KU the last week of the season, that'd be rough times in the WildUte household. Give him a squawk, though.
There you go. There's your squawk. Thank you for the super chat, Town Hawk. All right. Florida State. Florida State Seminoles. We just had Tempest give us a super chat. Let's see where they rank.
All right, Moen. Florida State Seminoles.
I've got them as a high-value fallback.
Huh?
I've got them as a high-value fallback. I've got Miami in front of them. I think any Florida team goes to the Big Ten, it's Miami. Fallback, let's say Miami joins the SEC. Fallback is Florida State.
You need to flesh that out more. Give more rationale for this, Moen.
Okay, again, we're looking at this from a Big Ten standpoint. Big Ten standpoint, there are two schools available in Florida. One of them is the University of Miami, which is a private school. We don't have to deal with all the state politics. There were several Big Ten schools pissed off about the Santa Ono thing. So I think Miami being private, primary target. Florida State being a public school in Florida and having to deal with the politics, high-value fallback.
Florida State is the crown jewel of realignment, Moen. Florida State is the crown jewel of realignment. Florida State is the crown jewel of realignment. This is what I mean. They might not be first on the Big Ten's big board, but they have the biggest swing factor of any of the schools that we've talked about. In the SEC tier maker or the Big Ten tier maker, this is the most explosive realignment move that could happen this cycle. Florida State in the Big Ten is a match made in heaven. It is. From a recruiting standpoint, from adding a new state standpoint, from football standpoint, from brand standpoint, from the crazy, amazing Florida State fan base. Florida State is the biggest value add driver for athletics, especially for football, out of all these schools, in my view. So it's going to have the most amplifier effect out of everyone. They are not ahead of Notre Dame in the Big Ten eyes. Totally realize that. But I still see them as the crown jewel of realignment and going to have the biggest swing factor when it's all freaking said and done. Given that factor, I think that the Big Ten smarts up eventually, and when the decision's made and we're in a boardroom like this talking about, hey, let's just break down all these schools. You look at Florida State there, and you ain't passing on Florida State for Miami, for Clemson, for Duke. No chance, man. You're taking Florida State. I think that they're number 3 on the list behind UNC. Notre Dame number 1, UNC number 2, Florida State number 3. Ahead of Miami. I think you add the Florida State and Miami combo, but Florida State is the one that you got to go for first. Thoughts?
Yeah, we're going to run a poll on that. As soon as I get it to figure, as soon as I figure it out. I got high value fallback. I put Miami in front of Florida State. Private school, they already have hospital. They already have access to a hospital. That is a big deal to the Big Ten. They are already AAU. Miami has a very good airport, easy to get in and get out of. Tallahassee, yes, they're working on their airport. They have done a lot to improve the infrastructure in Tallahassee, but it's not quite the infrastructure in Miami. Miami also gives you a huge Latin America market. We've already seen the Big Ten move towards new markets. They're broadcasting a Michigan game in Germany all of a sudden. So I think internationally, I think Miami's the better target internationally. I've just got Miami in front of Florida State. I do. I think if the Big Ten's taking a school in Miami, they're taking Miami. If they're taking a school in Florida, they're taking Miami. If they're not taking a school in Florida, they're not taking a school in Florida. You know?
You can't just take Miami and leave them on an island in South Florida, away from everything else. Look, like who else?
Okay, let's say North Carolina and Virginia go to the SEC.
Right.
Then you grab Clemson. Now you've got 2 more schools. Miami could be one of those schools. Notre Dame has a history with Miami. Notre Dame could say, okay, we didn't get on that. Let's grab Miami. There you've got your travel partner for Miami and Clemson. And then Notre Dame could say, hey, let's get Stanford. And Stanford says, no, we don't want to join the goddamn Big Ten Academic Alliance. We're too damn good for you. Then you go and grab Duke, who does want to join the Big Ten Academic Alliance. And from the rumors we've heard, they want to pay their own way. So, I mean, in that scenario, I'm taking Miami in front of Florida State. I'm sorry. It's not that I don't think Florida State's a great ad. I just think Miami fits better in the Big Ten. I think it fits better with Notre Dame. And we've heard rumors, too, about Notre Dame having issues with Florida State. So if Notre Dame's in, North Carolina and Virginia leave, they're not available. Even if Clemson leaves and they're not available, I think first on the list for Notre Dame would be Miami.
So I'm looking at this from a big board standpoint. Okay.
Sure.
So Notre Dame's first on the list. Then out of all these schools, I realize that UNC is the apple of the eye for the Big Ten and the SEC. I get that. I believe it. That's why they're there. Like Florida State's the sexiest logo up there. Just look up there. It's a sexier logo than like the Notre Dame. The fighting Mickeys over there. Like Florida State is the top-notch brand that the Big Ten needs and wants. It's Oregon on steroids. You added Oregon. Florida State is Oregon on steroids in the better recruiting grounds. If you're going to add Oregon, why not add Florida State? It's insane that you pass on Florida State. It'd be the biggest realignment blunder in the history of realignment. And passing on Florida State. I just can't believe it. The data supports it. Like everything is like, hey, this is a no-brainer. Get this freaking done.
Here's the thing, you got to keep this in mind. I'm not saying Florida State's a bad school. Great school, great fan base, 3 national championships. But if Notre Dame is calling the shots and it's Florida State or Miami, it's Miami. It is. Miami has 5 national championships. They are AAU. They've got a big football brand. Yeah, they had some shitty hirings, and they've been down for 20 years. But they got Mario Cristobal there now. Came very close to making the playoffs last year. Florida State had a down year last year. I just think Miami would be in front of Florida State. And I think Clemson would be in front of Florida State, too. And I base that on the fact that Clemson is on the list of the 4 teams they're talking to. We get Florida State, I think, is an SEC school. I really do. I view Florida State as an SEC school.
We have to disagree on this one. What does the community say?
Community says 56-44. It's a primary target.
Okay. So they're in the primary target realm. Moen, you're supporting Miami over Florida State and Clemson over Florida State.
Yeah, I've got. If I was going to put Florida State on primary targets, it would be behind North Carolina, Miami, and Clemson.
I can understand your Miami argument. I cannot understand them being behind Clemson.
Okay.
I can't.
Here's my reason why.
Other than the Notre Dame relationship.
Notre Dame relationship, Clemson has better academics than Florida State right now.
Not really, though. It's not true, Moen. If you look at the list and stuff, Florida State's top 60, 70 school. Like Clemson's the same exact school. Florida State does more research than Clemson.
Yeah, but look at the acceptance rate. The acceptance rates for Clemson is actually lower than the acceptance rates for Florida State. In addition, and I put this out here, and I know Florida State fans hate me bringing it up, the Santa Ono decision by the Florida Board of Governors pissed off Big Ten people. It did. They don't want the state government doing an overreach and decide. The University of Florida decided they wanted Santa Ono. The governors came in and said, no, you can't do that. The Big Ten viewed that as an overreach. The Big Ten does not want to get involved in Florida State politics. They don't. They don't want Florida Board of Governors coming in and telling Florida State what they're going to do. The Big Ten doesn't like that.
I mean, you added California schools. What do you expect? When you add California schools, it's way worse than Florida. Like, really, like you can't just say that and add 2 California-based schools. Like, that's just, that might be a nice to have, but that's not going to be a swing factor, Moen.
It is going to be a swing factor. I can tell you it's going to be a swing factor. The Santa Ono thing pissed a lot of people in the Big Ten off.
That happened at the University of Florida, not Florida State.
It did, but you have to understand the Board of Governors controls Florida State and Florida. They do not control Miami. They do not control Clemson. So I think politically, yes, that weighs on some people. It does. And look, that's not Florida State's fault. I get it. It's the government of the state of Florida. Florida State has no control over it. Completely understand that. I understand. I get that. But the fact is, a lot of people in the Big Ten, especially people who have a lot of pull in the Big Ten, it pissed them off.
Okay, Moen. So here we go. I'll make you a bet right now about Florida State and realignment. Whenever it does happen or it doesn't happen, okay? So if Florida State gets into the Big Ten Conference, then you have to chug a can of Skyline chili on a Big Freakin Friday show.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I don't care. I would do it. I'm just saying, though, I don't think Florida State is in front of Miami and Clemson. What do you do? Whoa. What are you going to do if Florida State doesn't make it in the Big Ten Conference?
I will chug a can of Skyline chili on the Big Freakin Friday show.
No. You've never had Skyline chili. I've had Skyline chili and I hate it. You got to go get one of the frozen Skyline chili meals with the spaghetti. You got to get a 4-way.
Oh my gosh.
Get the 4-way and then I'll chug a can of Skyline chili.
Skyline chili, man. Oh, that stuff sounds really gross. Hey, maybe we should throw down an MD 2020 on a Big Freakin Friday. Maybe that's
no, because I have to ship you the MD 2020. You forget that costs me money.
Okay, so Florida State. Okay, so you have them under primary targets in last position. I've got them in second position. Can we meet in the middle, Moen, and have them behind Miami and ahead of Clemson?
No, because listen, I want Clemson in front of Miami. We're just going to list them as primary target, and that's it. Their primary target. If anybody wants to argue, leave a comment on the video, on the live stream. Leave a comment. I think it should be North Carolina, Clemson, Miami, Florida State. You believe it should be North Carolina, Florida State, Miami, Clemson.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll let the community decide after the fact in the comments. and we'll leave it here right now because it's meeting in the middle. Do you want, let me ask, I'll give you this, Moen. Do you want Clemson in Miami's position right here? Or would you rather have Miami in the second position in primary targets? Florida State's got to be in the third.
Front.
Okay, so Miami's
I'd put
moved and
Clemson in
notched
front
back.
just based
So
on the
does that
fact that
look better?
Clemson is on this. Yes. Well, no, I don't like that either. I don't like that either.
What do you mean like
I got
that?
Florida State. Florida State has to be behind Miami regardless. Listen, Miami's private. They don't have to deal with Florida State politics. They've already got access. I know Florida State's doing inroads to get into medical access. Miami already has a huge medical center there. No, I would prefer Miami in front of Florida State. And if that has to put Clemson to the back, push Clemson to the back. I got the U in front of Florida State.
Okay, so
and I'll take all the hate from
back.
the Florida State fans.
I can live with this based on Clemson being a really terrible fit for the Big Ten. I think that no matter what's said about them, no matter what lists they're on, Clemson still is a head scratcher for the Big Ten Conference. More so than Florida State to me or Miami. So, okay.
So I'll just take the Florida State hate. I want the U in front of FSU.
I want FSU number uno, baby. Crown.
Yeah, you want them as a must-have in front of Notre Dame.
I would have them. If it weren't for you guys, I would have them as number one ahead of Notre Dame. My personal preference. But I'm a rational guy here, and this is a rational channel, and this is a rational analysis. So let's move on to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech was all the buzz about 3 to 6 months ago in realignment, especially for the Big Ten. What does Georgia Tech offer? It offers a great market, the Atlanta market. Really good academics, elite academics, strong research, a bridge down if you're going to go into Florida. There's a lot of things that Georgia Tech offer. And plus, culturally, Georgia Tech is actually fit for Big Ten, in my view and stuff. You're in the heart of the city, research-focused, aligned with a lot of same things that a lot of Big Ten universities, California-based universities are. So it fits in a lot of ways, but its football brand is average at best. It's getting better, of course, but it's not a TV driver historically for viewership. Its basketball brand's been down a long time. You're not really investing in sports here. You're investing in market and good academics and a great engineering program by adding Georgia Tech. What are your thoughts on Georgia Tech, Moen?
I think Georgia Tech's a great compromise pick. It might be a situation where you get votes in the Big Ten by adding Georgia Tech. Like you mentioned, Clemson is not AAU. Clemson does not have a lot of research. If it could be a compromise where, hey, we add Georgia Tech to get Clemson, again, assuming North Carolina and Virginia are taken, that the SEC scoops them up and the Big Ten has to make a move. Maybe it's Clemson, Duke, Georgia Tech, along with Notre Dame. I've got them as a high value fallback. The Atlanta market's huge.
Yeah,
but my problem is Clemson gets you a part of that Atlanta market.
Yeah, Clemson's an hour away.
Yeah, it's close enough to the Atlanta market. It gets you into the Atlanta market, in my opinion.
So you don't need them both.
You don't need them both. So again, if the SEC moves first and adds Virginia, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, we take these off the board, then you would have Notre Dame, the University of Miami, Stanford, Duke, followed by Georgia Tech, in my opinion.
Yeah,
that's why I think they're a high-value fallback.
I think that I would notch Georgia Tech in between Stanford and Duke. And Stanford, again, is like that really sleepy dark horse Big Ten candidate that you could just see totally get into the Big Ten with like a Notre Dame or by themselves if they just capitulated on the academic Ivy League aspect. They control their own destiny in a lot of ways. Georgia Tech does not. Georgia Tech might sneak their way into the Big Ten, but there's no way they're on a big board. They're ahead of Stanford. No chance, in my view. Stanford's clearly ahead of them. I mean, Stanford's such a strong candidate. You could say they're a primary target. I mean, I'm serious.
I wouldn't say that. Listen, Stanford and the Big Ten have had negotiations before. Stanford doesn't want to give up that Ivy Public League life, and that's fine. Duke apparently has chosen to do that. They're saying, listen, we'll leave the Ivy League and join the Big Ten Academic Alliance if you let us in. So, I mean, to me, Duke seems like a far more high-value fallback than Stanford. Stanford's already passed once, so I don't know, but I've got Georgia Tech as a high value fallback, regardless of where they're put on that list.
Let's put Georgia Tech right in the middle.
Okay,
That look good to you?
That's fine with me.
You know
but
what?
we got to talk about Kansas. Okay,
Oh my gosh!
I think Kansas.
Oh my gosh!
Again,
Okay.
I think Kansas should be at the back of high value fallback. I don't believe it's a strategic ad. The basketball program brings enough value that if we're going to say Duke is a high value fallback, partially because of their basketball program, so should Kansas. Kansas is a nationally recognized, consistent basketball powerhouse. I think Kansas, again, I'm going to make this argument, Kansas needs to be at the end of high value fallbacks.
We are so different on Kansas because if I had notched Kansas somewhere, it would be maybe behind Cal in last resorts ahead of Virginia Tech. To me, Kansas, why? Kansas City market doesn't really bring a lot. It's not growing. You add a basketball brand, but the football ratings aren't great. Like it's just not. There's not enough value there to drive a realignment move. Its academics aren't that good. It's AAU.
Its academics are not that good. I agree, but they are AAU. Nebraska's not AAU.
Why though, Moen? Like just because are you more heavy on basketball?
The basketball brand brings value. I think they should be right behind Duke because Duke offers the same thing. Basketball brand. Duke does offer. Duke is a very small private school. Kansas is a large public school. It's in a contiguous state, and it's got a basketball brand. I mean, look, if we're high value fallback, right there, you put it in the name, value. If we're saying Stanford is high value because of their research, Georgia Tech is high value because of their location, Duke is high value because they've got a basketball program and they're going to pay their own way. Kansas should be high value because they've got a basketball program that rivals Duke. I mean, like, listen, Kansas and Duke are top 4 basketball brands. They are.
And how much of a media contract does basketball drive, though? Let's just get that
I don't
out there.
disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. But look, you've got enough teams in front of Kansas here. You've got Notre Dame, North Carolina, Miami, Florida State, Clemson, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Duke. I think Kansas should be on high value fallbacks.
I just can't get there with Kansas. I feel like they're really.
Then you have to move them in front. You have to move them top in front on strategic ads.
Over Virginia, who just
I get Virginia. I get
offered before by the Big Ten.
I know. I get it. I 100% get it. But we're going on strategic ads. The Big Ten already has Maryland. They already get into the DC marketplace. Why do they need a second school to get into the DC marketplace? What does Virginia Tech bring? Their football sucks. Their basketball is up and down. I remember the one year they were a number 1 seed. They were the first number 1 seed to fall to a 16 seed. I think Kansas's basketball value is higher than Virginia's basketball value. So based on that, I would put Kansas in front of Virginia.
Okay. I think that you make a compelling argument to move Virginia back. And then we're talking about Arizona State. Yeah, let's talk about these Big 12 schools again. Okay. I think these need maybe a reevaluation, Moen, here. Okay. So ASU, looking at ASU stacked against Kansas, Colorado, and Utah. What is the value add over those 3 other schools for ASU? Why are they in first position?
For me, Kansas's basketball brand. It's a huge basketball brand.
So you think KU should be ahead of ASU?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So
I think the basketball brand, they're both AAU schools. They're not fantastic academic. Along with Utah, they've been kind of sliding academically, but they're both AAU schools. Kansas has invested a huge amount of money in their football stadium. They've got a new football stadium. Their basketball program remains as a top-tier basketball program. I know last year wasn't fantastic for them, but it's still one of the top 4 basketball programs in the country. I think they have a lot more value than ASU.